Welcome. I am truly glad you've decided to spend some time here today. Life has a way of moving very fast, doesn't it? We often find ourselves caught in a whirlwind of responsibilities, expectations, and, quite frankly, a lot of internal noise. If you have ever felt like you were standing in your own way, or if you've ever felt that the weight of the world was just a bit too heavy to carry alone, then you are exactly where you need to be. Today, we are exploring a set of principles that have helped millions of people shift their perspective from one of defeat to one of triumph. The main purpose of this book is to demonstrate that your mental attitude is the single most important factor in determining the quality of your life. It suggests that by changing the way you think, you can literally change the circumstances of your existence. This isn't about ignoring reality or pretending that problems don't exist. Rather, it is about developing a specific type of mental and spiritual resilience that allows you to face those problems with a sense of calm and power. As we go through this summary, we're going to focus on a few high-level ideas that serve as the foundation for everything else. First, we will look at the necessity of developing a deep, unshakable belief in yourself and your abilities. This is the starting point because, without self-confidence, it is nearly impossible to take the steps required for success. Second, we will explore the idea of a peaceful mind. In our modern world, we often think that high energy and constant movement are the keys to productivity. But this book argues that true power actually comes from a place of quiet and stillness. Finally, we will touch upon the concept of using faith and spiritual energy as a practical, daily tool, not just as a theoretical concept, but as a functional method for overcoming obstacles. This classic guide was written by Vincent Peale, and his goal was to provide a how-to manual for living a life full of energy and satisfaction. He believed that no one is destined to be defeated by their circumstances unless they allow their mind to accept that defeat. Throughout our time together, you'll hear how a simple shift in focus can lead to profound changes in your physical health, your relationships, and your career. It is about learning to tap into a reservoir of strength that already exists within you, waiting to be used. If you find this exploration helpful and want to see more content like this, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Main summary: the principles of creative living, the foundation of self-confidence. The very first concept we must address is the destructive nature of self-doubt and the vital necessity of self-confidence. The book suggests that many of our failures in life are not due to a lack of ability or opportunity, but rather a deep-seated feeling of inadequacy. This feeling, often called an inferiority complex, acts like a brake on a car. You can have a powerful engine, which represents your talent and skills, but if the brake is firmly pressed, you will never move forward. This idea is important because your self-belief acts as a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you approach a task with the assumption that you will fail, or that you aren't good enough, your mind begins to look for reasons to support that belief. You become hesitant, you miss cues, and you lack the energy required to push through difficulties. On the other hand, when you cultivate a sense of confidence, you release your inner powers. You begin to function at your highest capacity because you are no longer wasting energy on internal conflict or self-criticism. To understand this better, consider the way a person carries themselves when they are sure of their preparation versus when they are terrified of being judged. The confident person isn't necessarily more gifted, but they are more available to their own talents. They aren't blocked by the fear of making a mistake. The book emphasizes that this confidence isn't about arrogance. It's about a humble but firm trust in your own God-given potential. It is about realizing that you were not created to be a failure, and therefore, you have a duty to yourself to stop acting like one. Now we move to the next point, which takes us from our internal self-perception to the environment we create within our own heads. The power of a peaceful mind. In the pursuit of success, many people believe that they need to be wound up or high stress to get things done. However, this book proposes the exact opposite. True power is generated from a peaceful mind. A mind that is full of turmoil, worry, and frantic thoughts is like a lake during a storm. The water is murky, and you cannot see the bottom. But a peaceful mind is like a calm, clear lake. When the water is still, you can see clearly, and the reflection of the world around you is accurate. The importance of this concept cannot be overstated because a strained mind cannot think efficiently. When you are stressed, your perspective narrows. You see only the problems and none of the solutions. By practicing mental stillness, you actually increase your physical and mental energy. The book argues that a peaceful mind generates power. When you learn to quiet your thoughts, you stop leaking energy through nervous tension and worry. This conserved energy then becomes available for creative problem solving and sustained action. To implement this, one might look at the practice of emptying the mind before sleep or during moments of high stress. Instead of letting worries circulate endlessly, you consciously choose to visualize them leaving your mind. For example, imagine a person who has had a chaotic day at the office. If they carry that chaos home and into their sleep, they wake up exhausted. But if they spend even 5 minutes in silence, consciously letting go of the day's friction, they allow their mind to reset. This reset is what provides the clarity needed to face the next day's challenges with a fresh perspective. Now we move to the next point, where we discuss how to maintain this peace and confidence even when things aren't going our way. Practicing the presence of energy. A recurring theme in the book is that our physical vitality is closely linked to our emotional and spiritual state. We often think of energy as something we get purely from food or sleep, but the author argues that much of our fatigue is actually mental fatigue. We are tired because we are bored, discouraged, or carrying around heavy loads of resentment and fear. When we align ourselves with positive, spiritual thoughts, we tap into a source of energy that is much more sustainable than sheer willpower. This is important because life requires a great deal of stamina. If we rely only on our physical reserves, we will eventually burn out. However, if we learn to think of ourselves as being in tune with a larger source of power, what the author refers to as divine energy, we find that we can do more with less strain. It is the difference between rowing a boat against the current and setting a sail to catch the wind. Positive thinking, combined with faith, acts as that sail. It catches the natural flow of life and moves us forward without the grinding effort of a negative mindset. Think of a person who is working on a project they truly love versus a project they hate. The person doing what they love seems to have endless energy, even if they stay up late. This isn't because they have a different biology. It's because their mind is excited and positive, which translates into physical vitality. The book teaches us to consciously cultivate that excited and positive state through affirmations and prayer, ensuring that our battery stays charged regardless of the external circumstances. Now we move to the next point, focusing on the specific mental habits that allow us to expect and receive the best outcomes. The law of expectation. The book introduces a concept that many now recognize as a fundamental psychological truth. You tend to get what you expect. If you go into a situation expecting it to go poorly, you subconsciously behave in ways that ensure a poor outcome. This is not magic. It is the way the human brain prioritizes information. If you expect failure, your brain ignores opportunities and focuses on obstacles. But when you train yourself to expect the best, you condition your mind to look for the tools and paths that lead to success. This is vital because your expectations act as a magnet. The author explains that when you radiate a sense of expectation, people respond to you differently. You appear more capable, more trustworthy, and more energetic. This, in turn, opens doors that would remain closed to someone who radiates doubt or gloom. By changing your expectation setting from negative to positive, you change the way you interact with every person and situation you encounter. A simple example would be someone going into a job interview. If they expect to be rejected, they might stumble over their words or fail to show enthusiasm. However, if they truly expect a positive connection, their natural charisma shines through. The book encourages us to throw our heart over the bar, meaning we should commit our expectations to the goal first, and our bodies and minds will naturally follow where the heart has already gone. Now we move to the next point, where we address one of the greatest thieves of human energy, the habit of worry. If confidence is the foundation and peace is the power source, worry is the leak that drains your system dry. The book describes worry as a destructive process of mental circulation, where the same fearful thoughts move around in a circle, never reaching a solution, but constantly wearing down the mind and body. This point is essential because worry is often a learned behavior. We aren't born worriers. We become them by observing others or by reacting to life's uncertainties with fear rather than faith. The author argues that because worry is a habit, it can be broken and replaced with a better habit. He suggests that just as you can train your body to perform a physical task, you can train your mind to reject worry. The goal is to reach a state where, when a fearful thought enters your mind, your mental immune system automatically recognizes it and replaces it with a thought of courage or peace. To understand how to break this cycle, think of the mind like a room with a limited amount of space. You cannot simply stop worrying, because that leaves an empty vacuum that worry will quickly fill again. Instead, you must crowd out the worry by filling the mind with positive, faith-filled thoughts. For instance, if you are concerned about a financial matter, the book suggests focusing on the idea of abundance and the many times in the past where things worked out, rather than obsessing over a potential disaster. By saturating the mind with these positive alternatives, worry eventually finds no place to sit. Now we move to the next point, which explores how we can apply this mental clarity to the specific, tangible problems we face every day. Solving problems through creative thinking. Many people approach their problems with a sense of panic, which, as we discussed earlier, shuts down the creative faculties of the brain. This book offers a specific methodology for problem solving that relies on maintaining a calm, objective perspective. The author suggests that most problems appear insurmountable only because our own fear has magnified them. When we approach a challenge with a quiet mind, we are able to see it for what it truly is, not a wall, but a series of steps that can be climbed. The importance of this concept lies in the shift from being a problem thinker to a solution thinker. A problem thinker spends all their energy describing the difficulty, complaining about how unfair it is, and predicting all the ways it might end in disaster. A solution thinker acknowledges the difficulty, but immediately begins to ask, how can I get through this? The book emphasizes that there is almost always a way through any situation if you stay calm enough to find it. This involves a process of creative visualization, where you see the problem as already solved and work backward from that success. A helpful way to visualize this is to think of a navigator on a ship. When a storm arises, the navigator doesn't just stare at the waves in terror. They look at the charts and the compass. They know where they want to go, and they look for the path that leads through the storm. In the same way, the book teaches that when you are faced with a complex personal or professional issue, you should step back, relax your physical body, and ask for guidance. By removing the static of emotional distress, you allow your intuition and your intelligence to work together to find the most efficient path forward. Now we move to the next point, which examines the profound relationship between our mental state and our physical well-being. The mind-body connection in healing. One of the more striking claims in the book is that our thoughts have a direct, measurable impact on our physical health. The author suggests that a great deal of physical illness is rooted in emotional distress, specifically resentment, guilt, and fear. He doesn't dismiss the need for medical science, but he argues that the best medicine is often ineffective if the patient's mind is full of toxic thoughts that are working against the healing process. This is a critical point because it highlights the holistic nature of our existence. If you are harboring a deep-seated grudge or living in a state of constant anxiety, your body is under a continuous stress response. Over time, this wears down your immune system and leads to exhaustion or illness. The book advocates for healing through the mind by clearing out these emotional blockages. By cultivating a spirit of forgiveness and a sense of internal harmony, you create an environment where the body's natural healing processes can function at their best. Consider the physical feeling of anger. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your digestion slows down. Now, imagine carrying a small amount of that tension with you every single day for years. The book explains that this low-grade stress is often what leads to chronic fatigue. By practicing the principles of positive thinking and spiritual peace, you are essentially giving your body a chance to rest and recover. It is about realizing that a healthy mind and a healthy body are two sides of the same coin. Now we move to the next point, focusing on how we can clean our mental house by removing the specific poison of resentment, eliminating resentment for personal harmony. Following the idea of mental health affecting physical health, the The book places a heavy emphasis on the danger of resentment. Resentment is described as a spiritually poisonous emotion that does far more damage to the person who holds it than to the person it is directed toward. The author argues that you cannot have a powerful, positive life if you are dragging the heavy chains of past injuries or perceived slights behind you. This point is vital because resentment acts as a barrier to the flow of energy and creativity. When you are resentful, a large portion of your mental capacity is dedicated to relitigating the past. You are stuck in a moment that has already ended, which prevents you from fully engaging with the present. The book suggests that the only way to truly be free is through the practice of genuine forgiveness. This isn't necessarily for the sake of the other person. It is a selfish act of liberation for yourself. It is about deciding that your peace of mind is more valuable than your right to be angry. As mentioned earlier, the mind must be emptied before it can be filled. Just as you might clear out a cluttered closet to make room for new clothes, you must clear out old grudges to make room for new, positive experiences. A relatable way to look at this is to think of resentment like a hot coal. You might intend to throw it at someone else, but as long as you are holding on to it, you are the one getting burned. Letting go of that coal doesn't mean the other person was right. It simply means you are finished being hurt by the situation. Now we move to the next point, which discusses the importance of choosing our social and mental environment carefully, creating an atmosphere of victory. The book argues that we are highly susceptible to the atmosphere we live in, both the physical environment and the mental environment created by the people around us. If you spend all your time with people who are defeated, cynical, and pessimistic, it becomes incredibly difficult to maintain a positive outlook. The author suggests that we must be intentional about creating an atmosphere of victory in our homes, our workplaces, and our own inner dialogues. This is important because our subconscious mind is constantly absorbing the cues around us. If we are surrounded by talk of failure and limitations, our subconscious begins to accept those as facts. To counter this, the book encourages us to surround ourselves with reminders of our goals and our potential. This could be through the books we read, the people we seek advice from, or even the way we speak about our daily lives. By consciously choosing words of hope and strength, we change the vibe of our environment, making it easier for positive outcomes to take root. Think of it like a garden. If the soil is poor and full of weeds, even the best seeds will struggle to grow. But if you enrich the soil and pull the weeds, the plants will flourish almost effortlessly. In this metaphor, your mind is the garden, and the atmosphere you create is the soil. By filling your day with positive affirmations, inspiring conversations, and a general sense of optimism, you are enriching your mental soil. This makes success a natural byproduct of your environment, rather than something you have to constantly struggle to achieve. Now we move to the next point, which addresses how to maintain this momentum even when we experience setbacks. Turning defeat into strength. A common misconception about positive thinking is that it means you will never experience failure. The author is very clear that challenges and setbacks are a part of every life. However, the difference lies in how those setbacks are interpreted. A person with a negative mindset sees a setback as a permanent defeat and a reason to give up. A positive thinker sees a setback as a temporary detour or a valuable lesson that provides the information needed to succeed on the next attempt. This perspective is crucial because it removes the sting of failure. If you believe that every experience, good or bad, is working together for your ultimate benefit, you lose the fear of trying. The book suggests that there's a germ of success in every failure. Our job is to find that germ and nurture it. When things go wrong, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the book encourages us to ask, "What is this teaching me? And how can I use this to be stronger?" For example, consider an athlete who loses a race. They could spend their time being depressed and concluding they aren't fast enough. Or they could analyze their performance, find the specific areas where they can improve, and use the frustration of the loss as fuel for their training. The loss didn't change their potential. It simply revealed where their preparation was lacking. By adopting this growth mindset, as we might call it today, you ensure that even your bad days are contributing to your long-term success. Now we move to the next point, where we explore the concept of prayer not just as a religious ritual, but as a practical, functional tool for achieving clarity and results. In the book, the author describes a specific three-step method: prioritize, picturize, and actualize. This approach is designed to move a goal from the realm of a vague wish into the realm of a concrete reality by engaging the full power of the conscious and subconscious mind. The importance of this method lies in its ability to focus human energy. Prioritizing involves the daily practice of talking to a higher power about your problems in a simple, natural way, not using formal language, but speaking as you would to a trusted friend. This clarifies what you actually want. Picturizing is the process of creating a vivid mental image of your success. The author argues that a person's life tends to follow the pictures they hold in their mind. Finally, actualizing is the natural result of these two steps, where the external circumstances of your life begin to align with the mental image you have cultivated. To understand how this works in a daily context, imagine someone who is trying to start a new business. Instead of just worrying about the finances, they prioritize by asking for guidance on each decision. They picturize the business being successful, the customers being happy, and the office being a place of peace. By doing this, they aren't just hoping. They are training their brain to recognize the specific opportunities that will lead to that outcome. The book suggests that this alignment of thought and spirit creates a magnetic force that pulls your goals towards you. Now we move to the next point, where we discuss the vital role of physical and mental relaxation in maintaining this flow of power. The art of relaxed power. A significant portion of our daily fatigue comes from what the book calls straining. We often believe that the harder we push and the more tension we hold in our bodies, the more we are accomplishing. However, the author argues that easy does it is a much more effective mantra. He suggests that true efficiency is achieved when you are physically relaxed and mentally calm. When you are tense, you are essentially working against yourself, using your own energy to fight your own muscles and nerves. This concept is important because it changes the way we look at work. The author notes that the most successful people are often the most relaxed. They have learned to let power flow through them, rather than trying to force it out of themselves. By practicing conscious relaxation, dropping the shoulders, loosening the jaw, and breathing deeply, you signal to your mind that you are in control. This physical state of ease allows the mind to function at a higher level of creativity and stamina. For instance, think of a public speaker or an athlete. If they are tight and nervous, they perform poorly. But if they are relaxed, they are in the zone, and their natural abilities flow without effort. The book teaches us to apply this zone mentality to every part of our lives. By consciously letting go of physical tension several times a day, you prevent the buildup of the stress that eventually leads to burnout. It's about learning to be active without being agitated. Now we move to the next point, which details how to use thought conditioners to permanently rewire your mental habits. Saturation through thought conditioners. The author introduces a technique called mental saturation, using what he calls thought conditioners. These are specific, powerful statements, often drawn from spiritual texts, that are designed to be memorized and repeated until they sink deep into the subconscious mind. The idea is that if you fill your mind with enough positive conditioners, there will eventually be no room left for the old, negative thoughts that used to dominate your life. This is important because our subconscious mind is like a computer that runs on the software we provide. If we have been feeding it software of doubt and fear for years, we cannot expect it to produce results of confidence and success overnight. We must flush out the old system. By repeating these conditioners, such as, "I can do all things through the strength that sustains me," we are effectively installing new software. Over time, these thoughts become your natural, automatic reaction to any situation. Consider the way a person learns a new language. At first, they have to think hard about every word, but after enough repetition and immersion, they begin to think in that language effortlessly. The book suggests that positive thinking should be treated the same way. It isn't something you do once in a while when you feel like it. It is a discipline of constant mental immersion. By carrying these conditioners with you throughout the day, you ensure that your mental background music is always one of hope and power. Now we move to the next point, moving from our internal mental state to how we interact with the people around us. The Secret of Harmonious Relationships. A common struggle for many is the feeling of being unappreciated or disliked by others. The book addresses this by suggesting that our relationships are often a direct reflection of our own inner state. If you are full of self-doubt, resentment, or inner conflict, people will subconsciously pick up on that uncomfortable energy and pull away. To get people to like you, the author argues, you must first learn to like yourself and project a genuine sense of warmth and interest toward others. The importance of this idea is that it moves the control of your social life back into your own hands. Instead of trying to manipulate people into liking you, you focus on becoming the kind of person that others naturally want to be around. This involves a process of outgoingness, turning your attention away from your own insecurities and focusing entirely on the well-being and interests of the person in front of you. The book suggests that the most popular people are those who make others feel important and valued. A short, relatable example of this is the name and interest rule. When you meet someone, instead of worrying about what they think of you, you make a conscious effort to remember their name and ask about something they care about. By radiating this unselfish interest, you create a positive current between yourself and the other person. The author explains that when you are at peace with yourself, you no longer need to take energy from others. Instead, you have a surplus of energy to give, which makes you naturally attractive to everyone you meet. Now we move to the next point, where we discuss the application of these principles during the most difficult times, such as when dealing with sorrow or loss. Finding strength in times of sorrow. Life inevitably brings moments of deep grief and loss, and the book does not shy away from this reality. However, it applies the same principles of positive thinking to the process of healing. The author argues that while sorrow is a natural and necessary emotion, we must not allow it to turn into a permanent state of gloom or hopelessness. The goal is to move through the sorrow and emerge with a deeper understanding of life's spiritual foundations. This is important because prolonged, unchecked grief can paralyze a person's ability to live. The book suggests that the remedy for sorrow is a combination of faith and activity. By leaning into a belief in the continuity of life and the presence of a higher comfort, you take the sting out of death and loss. Additionally, the author emphasizes the importance of getting back into the stream of life as soon as possible. Helping others, engaging in work, and staying active prevents the mind from becoming a stagnant pool of sadness. Think of a person who has lost a loved one and feels they can never be happy again. The book encourages them to visualize that loved one as being in a place of peace and joy, and to realize that the best way to honor them is to live a full, meaningful life. By shifting the focus from what was lost to the love that remains, the person begins to heal. It is about using your mental power to find light even in the darkest rooms of human experience. Now we move to the next point, which focuses on the specific prescription for maintaining high levels of daily energy. The daily prescription for vitality. To wrap these concepts into a functional lifestyle, the book provides what could be called a daily prescription for mental and physical health. The author notes that many people are unnecessarily tired because they are living out of rhythm with their own nature. He suggests a routine that involves specific times for silence, specific phrases for affirmation, and a conscious decision to start every morning with a positive attitude adjustment. This is vital because consistency is the key to any lasting change. You cannot go to the gym once and expect to be fit, and you cannot think one positive thought and expect to be a confident person forever. The book emphasizes that you must practice positive thinking just as you would practice a musical instrument. This includes the habit of visualizing a successful day before you even get out of bed, and clearing the mind of all friction before you go to sleep. A relatable way to see this is to think of your mind like a battery. Throughout the day, various interactions and stresses drain that battery. If you don't have a specific recharging routine, like the one suggested in the book, you will eventually run on empty. But by following a daily discipline of prayer, relaxation, and positive affirmation, you keep your battery constantly topped up. This ensures that you have the reserve power needed to handle emergencies or unexpected challenges without falling into a state of collapse. As we bring this exploration to a close, it is worth reflecting on the central promise that Vincent Peale offers to every person who follows these principles. You do not have to live a life of defeat. The core of this entire guide is the realization that while we cannot always control the events that happen to us, we have absolute authority over how we interpret them and how we respond. This isn't just a collection of nice ideas. It is meant to be a practical, daily discipline that transforms you from a victim of circumstances into a master of your own destiny. Throughout our discussion, we have seen that the path to a powerful life begins with a simple but profound shift in internal focus. We talked about building a foundation of self-confidence by replacing feelings of inadequacy with a firm trust in your own abilities. We explored the paradoxical idea that true power comes from a peaceful mind and the importance of creating a mental atmosphere where clarity can thrive. We looked at how to break the destructive habit of worry, how to use creative thinking to dismantle problems, and how to maintain physical vitality by staying in tune with the higher source of energy. The book reminds us that the world is often a mirror. If you look into that mirror with a face full of doubt and gloom, the world will reflect that back to you in the form of obstacles and closed doors. But if you look into it with a face of expectation and faith, the world begins to open up. You start to see opportunities where you once saw walls. You find strength where you once found exhaustion. This is the law of expectation in action. The idea that by changing your mental blueprint, you literally change the structure of your life. Applying these lessons requires persistence. As mentioned earlier, mental habits are like physical muscles. They require consistent exercise. The thought conditioners, the daily prayers, and the practice of relaxation are the tools you use to keep your mind sharp and your spirit resilient. The goal is to reach a point where positive thinking is no longer an effort you have to remember to do, but becomes the very air you breathe. You become a person who naturally radiates hope, who faces challenges with a calm smile, and who refuses to be defeated by any temporary setback. In the final analysis, this book teaches that you were created for a life of joy, energy, and achievement. The only thing standing in your way are the mental barriers you have allowed to grow. By using the techniques we have discussed today, you can tear down those barriers and step into a version of yourself that is more capable than you ever imagined. You have within you a reservoir of relaxed power that is waiting to be tapped. All that is required is for you to change your mind, and in doing so, you will change your world. Thank you for joining me on this journey through these life-changing principles. I hope you feel equipped and inspired to start your own practice of positive thinking today.